Pittsburgh is if Shedeur is still on the board at 21, the Steelers will draft the Colorado star. Greg, would this be the best case scenario for Shedeur?
Well, I think we've kind of talked about this before about it, why it wouldn't be the best case scenario, because obviously you want to get drafted higher and all those things. But in terms of fit, culture, having something set and stable and ready to go, like absolutely. Regardless if he's the day one or week 6, week 8, after your bye, wherever that ends up being, like you feel really comfortable and confident about what you have around this young player if he comes in and he's the guy that falls into your lap because you went out in this offseason and got a bona fide number one in your opinion in DK Metcalf. You have George Pickens on that roster as it currently stands for now, but you have offensive line. You can run the ball. A lot of the questions are surrounding Arthur Smith, but everywhere he's been, he hasn't had a quarterback that we can all say, oh, well, he's had a guy and he just blew it. No, but if he gets a guy like Shedeur who has proven that he can play wherever he's been, given the situations he's been in, he's produced on every level that he's played, like this would be a great win for both sides.
I agree. I think this would be great for Shedeur. Like, I get it. You want to be drafted higher. But we all know where you go is a huge part of how much success you'll have as a quarterback. And for all the reasons you said, good receivers, even the tight end that's good, Freiermuth, a franchise that is committed to a good run game generally. They've got a top 10 defense, stability, a great organization, Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame coach. Like, if Shedeur can play like at the NFL level, like if he's a good quarterback, then this is going to be perfect for him. So if he's got the ability, I think they'll bring it out in Pittsburgh.
All right, can I pivot the question, Wiles? I know it's usually your job. Let's say they draft them at 21. And I don't know what mock draft 3.0 says, but they might. Should he want them to sign Aaron Rodgers? He has been drafted at 21. Like, well, no, because I
think that would be great for him.
See, I thought you might say that. I knew you wouldn't.
Sit a year, but look, I'm not saying Rodgers, you got to take up his character and learn all that from him, but quarterback play, you can learn from him.
And not be pressured to start immediately. I agree with your reaction, Miles, but I thought Brew might. I'm curious where.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't. If I'm Shedeur and I'm getting drafted at 21, would I want them to sign? No. I wouldn't want that. Because there's so many ways you can learn and absorb information from veteran players. It doesn't have to be the best player that we deem in this last 10 years or whatever the case may be as it pertains to Aaron Rodgers. What it is you want a guy that you feel like can really absorb knowledge from somebody who's willingly wanting to provide that to you.
So I think the reason I asked the question, I think it's less about the Aaron specifically and more, I think it's more about, is Shedeur better off starting immediately or not? Because the only guy they could sign that I think there wouldn't be such immense pressure from, is Rodgers, from the fans.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, why are we not playing this kid?
I agree with that.
If they have Aaron, then the expectation is, hey, to redshirt year.
I'll go the other way. Aaron shouldn't want to sign if they have Shedeur.
Oh, I think that's probably true.
Okay. Why couldn't we just focus on this question? Because it's actually more of an interesting question. Why do we got to bring Aaron Rodgers into this mix right now? Should the Pittsburgh Steelers draft LeBron James? Is LeBron James, like secretariat, as JCT Slice brought up to my attention? We always got to shoehorn other people in conversations. Okay. So I think there would be some question marks with the Pittsburgh Steelers having Shedeur here. I think there's some pros and cons. I think Mike Tomlin would be good for Shedeur. And I think also Mike Tomlin and Deion Sanders will talk the same language. And I think there'll be a ton of mutual respect there. And we know how involved Deion Sanders is in Shedeur's life and this whole process. So it is something that it is something that you consider. You consider that really in all situations. You don't think that the Chiefs are still managing Patrick Mahomes' family and whatnot. Like, we know they are. We know they are. So, these things do matter. And so I do think that there'll be a lot of respect and even synergy with Mike Tomlin there. And I think that'll be, Mike Tomlin himself individually, not only as a coach and as a personality, would be a great structure and cultural fit for Shedeur. And like I said, I'm sure Mike Tomlin wouldn't hesitate to also have conversations with Coach Prime and would have like real conversations, whereas there's plenty of other coaches that would either just not happen or it would be weird, or right, like there's always the feeling that people talk about how like if Shedeur goes to the Giants, Brian Dable could be out of a job and then Deion could be the head coach, like just like kind of weird stuff that you don't get the sense would be the situation with Mike Tomlin. And so that is a legitimate benefit and a legitimate factor and a variable from my viewpoint. The only other thing though, some of the negatives or some of the concerns that I would have, and I also think that he would fit with Pittsburgh, by the way, as well. I think he would fit very well in Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, because he talked about, they brought up the fans and stuff like that. I think the fans would put their arms around him very easily and would be excited, at this idea of having, potentially a true long-term quarterback who can get out there and fight and win some games. And I think that would also bring a lot of attention and excitement to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quite frankly, the Pittsburgh Steelers, as of late, have not had a lot of energy behind their teams in ways that really made you feel like there was things to talk about. You had to really fight. Yeah, they find themselves to like win some games and whatnot, but you're not really talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers in the same way that you're talking about the 49ers, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, etc. And I think with Shedeur, you definitely bring a ton of momentum, energy. Might not all be good, but it's definitely going to be there. And so if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, like, that's pretty fun. You'll be talked about on all the shows literally every single day, every single week of the season. And, as someone who watches all these videos and makes videos and stuff like that, I talk about this a lot. I feel bad for the teams that don't get talked about a lot. No one's talking about the Tennessee Titans, the Carolina Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, no one's talking about them. No one's talking about the New York Giants this season. People weren't talking about the Washington Commanders until Jaden Daniels got there. And I had to fight to find Pittsburgh Steelers clips. And I kept saying, like, this is wild. The Steelers fan base is massive. They're a massive team. They're football royalty. They got all the rings. It's a great city, great football city. And I'm like, it's just nothing but doubt and hate, or just, no conversation at all. And Shedeur Sanders would change that immediately. But that doesn't always mean that that's the right pick. But the biggest con that I see is, and I'm still back and forth with Arthur Smith. And, there's other people that I talk to that, are high on him. And I'm not high on him. I'm still trying to figure him out, how I feel about him as an offensive coordinator personally. But like Najee Harris kind of came out and was like, we had no game, he really criticized the game plan. He said we had no identity. Like, he was frustrated by how things were and immediately felt better with Harbaugh. And so that is the guy who's going to be running the offense. And I think when we see how things unfolded with the Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, there were some highs, but there were also plenty of lows. And that's where it's hard to judge Arthur Smith, because you're like, well, he hasn't really had good quarterbacks in the past, and now it depends on how you feel about Russell Wilson and how you feel about Justin Fields and just the offensive support they have part of that, at that team in this current moment. So it's just like, it does become a little bit harder to try to figure out exactly who Arthur Smith is, but like at this point, you could question his ability to actually develop a young quarterback and put a young quarterback in a position to succeed. I think that's a fair question. And that's what Shedeur needs. Shedeur is going to need to be developed. He is raw talent in the NFL. He is not a plug and play. He's just going to enter the league and just have success. It's just not going to be the case. Just not. And so much already falls on you guys know I'm super high on coaches and talking about offensive coordinators. Like, I give Cliff Kingsbury a tremendous amount of credit for the success that Jaden Daniels had, and Jaden Daniels clearly is a special talent. But I think in this type of situation, especially, there's some question marks there, and I'm just, I think Shedeur, you don't want to see Shedeur in a situation where it is this like messy coaching thing where you're kind of just like, oh, this is not working. We really need to find a new coach ASAP. Because I think once you kind of start off on a rocky path with someone like a Shedeur Sanders, and like I said, and now you're going to have Dion involved, I just think it can get weird pretty quickly. It got weird with Caleb Williams. And they're different personalities and different family backgrounds and all of that. And yet it still got weird, right? It got weird quick with Caleb. And I think Shedeur needs to enter the league in a place of stability. That's what happens when you're not a player who's just going to be able to just, put their mark on the league sooner rather than later, or you don't have a physical skill set that you can fall back on regularly. Like we saw Lamar, like we saw Jaden, like we even saw Josh Allen to a degree, where like, your get out of jail free card is your physicality. And so at least you can kind of like, you can make things work. I do not believe that Shedeur has that. And so if he's not really protected and if he's not really put in a position to succeed, it will be nearly impossible from my viewpoint to see him fight his way out of it. So much will be, can Arthur Smith put a young, raw rookie quarterback in a position to succeed? Can he develop that young, raw quarterback week to week where we can see the measurable growth? Otherwise, I think we see essentially Caleb Williams 2.0, but quite frankly, even worse. And so, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I can definitely change my mind on both sides of this, quite frankly, because it's something that I'm still personally wrestling with, which is why I'd rather talk about it and think out loud rather than try to like contemplate, should Aaron Rodgers be there and how will Shedeur feel about it? It's kind of like, I don't care. Like, it's just like, we can talk about other things beyond Aaron Rodgers. Like, come on. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Shedeur Sanders potentially going to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Would that be the best case scenario for him? Would that be good for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.